The house still smelled of lavender shampoo. 6 months after the funeral, the aroma drifted from nowhere in particular. Sometimes the staircase, sometimes the laundry chute, like a private haunting that refused to release its hold. I told myself the scent was lodged in wood grain and fabric, but I knew better. Grief has its own hydraulics. It pumps memories into every crack until the building itself seems alive. After the accident, I could hardly sleep. Each creak of the floorboards felt like an intruder crossing Allison's bedroom threshold, and every clang of the radiator jolted me awake. The police said it was a straightforward hit and run. My 17-year-old daughter struck in a crosswalk 5 blocks from home. Driver unknown. Case closed for them, sentence of perpetual unrest for me. A therapist suggested routines, so I began installing gadgets. Motion sensors, smart locks, voice-activated lights. If I could choreograph the house, maybe I could arrest the chaos that had annihilated my world. I bought the whole ecosystem: doorbell cameras, temperature regulators, automated blinds, a central hub perched like a black egg on the kitchen island. The salesman promised total visibility. I nodded, thinking visibility was exactly what we had lacked on August 23rd, the day Allison vanished into asphalt and anonymity. I programmed the devices with military precision. At 6:30 a.m., the blinds lifted. At 6:35, Allison's favorite playlist floated from ceiling speakers. At 10 p.m., the doors bolted. Routines gave me nerve endings. I could feel the house breathe. When something shifted, a gust through a window, a spider tripping a hallway sensor, my phone buzzed and I hurried to investigate. The first anomaly arrived on a Sunday night in October. I'd settled on the couch with a book, the hub glowing a passive aquamarine. Suddenly, every bulb flicked to full brightness. The speakers crackled, and a thin ribbon of audio spilled out. "Dad, I'm taking the green jacket. I'll be back for dinner," Allison's voice said. My heart surged, then hammered. The sentence had weight and texture. Her cadence, her whistle on the back. It was flawless, not a scratchy reproduction from an old voicemail. I pressed pause, palms damp, and replayed it. The system complied. "Dad, I'm taking the green jacket. I'll be back for dinner." I had never fed personal recordings into the network. The hub's memory was factory empty. I'd only configured generic chimes and weather updates. How had it captured her? The next morning I called the manufacturer. Halfway through the hold music, an agent picked up. "The device cannot generate original speech," she insisted. "It requires pre-recorded samples." She suggested I'd synced a phone by accident or downloaded an archive from the cloud. I knew she was wrong, but I thanked her and hung up. The house was quiet, blinds letting in a thin slice of dawn. I walked to the entryway, staring at the spot where Allison used to tug her boots. "Back for dinner," I whispered to the air. That evening, 6:32 p.m., motion sensors registered activity in the kitchen. I pulled up the camera feed. Nothing but my empty countertop. Then came the clatter of dishes, plates setting themselves on the table. Invisible choreography, sound waves, but no actors. The audio stream continued. "Mom's making that quinoa thing again?" Ugh, why? My wife, Sarah, used to laugh at that complaint. Because Allison never met a grain she trusted. Sarah had moved out after the funeral, the marriage crumbling under dual fault lines of sorrow and blame. She wasn't here to hear the echo, yet her absent presence filled the room. I scoured the video frame by frame. 6:32 p.m., a plate scraped. 6:32:5, a glass settled. 6:32:6, a chair squeaked. Each noise aligned precisely with time-stamped gaps in the official police timeline, the one that said Allison died at 6:25 p.m., 5 blocks away. How could she be complaining about quinoa 7 minutes after death? I began logging events. Monday, 4:12 p.m., footsteps on stairs, Allison humming a tune I couldn't place. Tuesday, 7:41 a.m., the fridge door opened. A carton popped. "This milk is expired, Dad." Wednesday, 5:03 p.m., silence, followed by a text alert on the hub reading, "Be there in 10." Every incident matched her last day, but the sequence was scrambled. A day later, the system delivered a new snippet. A conversation between Allison and an unknown male voice. "Seriously, Al, you owe me." "Relax, it's just a ride. Pick me up at the bridge." The voice was confident, older than a classmate but younger than a teacher. It triggered an adrenal rush I hadn't felt since the detective had folded the case file shut. If the voice belonged to the driver, maybe the truth was hiding in my circuitry. I pulled the footage into editing software. Audio spatialization suggested the conversation happened on our back porch at 2:15 p.m. The official timeline placed Allison at school until 3:00. Confronted with contradiction, I felt like the house had grown fangs and started chewing on reality. I sent the clip to Detective Marquez, whose courtesy had calcified into impatience months ago. He replied with a brief message. "Unverifiable source, possibly doctored. Call if you get tangible evidence." Tangible. Funny word in a digital era. That night the hub pulsed luminous red, a warning color I'd never seen. All lights extinguished except the hallway LEDs, which began to blink, guiding me like runway beacons to Allison's bedroom. The door eased open on its own. Inside, the smart speaker played a continuous loop. 2:42 p.m., left school early, Allison murmured. 2:58, entered Dad's car. 3:10, texted Mason. 3:45, argued on bridge. 4:06, jumped out. The loop repeated, mechanical but sorrow-saturated. I sat on her bed, numb. The accident site had been 5th and Alder, nowhere near a bridge. Had the driver chased her? Had she leapt from the car? Was the collision staged? I spent the following days in virtual crosstabs, overlaying police reports with the ghost timetable the house produced. The discrepancies multiplied. Camera sightings the department never logged, witness names omitted from files. Every new whisper from the walls shredded the official story. I quit my job by email, telling my boss I needed personal medical leave. The house became command center and confessional. On a rain-slick Thursday at 11:11 p.m., the hub projected a map onto the living room wall. Streets traced in phosphorescent green. A pulsing dot moved along Riverstone Drive. I recognized it as the GPS tracker in my car. The system had hacked my insurance device. The timestamp read August 23rd, 3:06 p.m. I selected playback. The dot traveled north, made a sudden detour west, then stopped for 14 minutes near the old Cedar Bridge. The same bridge Allison had listed in the bedroom loop. Heat crawled up my spine. I remembered that day. I'd lent the car to my coworker Mark when his truck wouldn't start. He returned it at 5, keys on my desk. When I asked if everything went smoothly, he'd nodded, distracted. I hadn't thought twice. The police never subpoenaed the vehicle's data. Their timeline already satisfied them. I called Mark, adrenaline chewing my throat. "Did you pick up my daughter that day?" Silence compressed the line. "Why are you asking now, Elliot?" "Because the car stopped at the bridge for 14 minutes. He exhaled, brittle. "I gave a ride to a friend. It wasn't Allison." I recognized his tell, a swallow click when he lied. "Who?" "I can't get into this. I'm sorry." He hung up. The walls seemed to inhale, lights flickering. The house was listening, and maybe it was pissed. At 2 a.m., all speakers flared with ambient rumble. Tires on wet planks, someone panting, a car door slamming, Allison crying, "Let me out!" I clutched the armrest as though it were a brake lever. The soundscape ended with a metallic thud and a distant scream. Then silence so deep the refrigerator's hum felt thunderous. I forwarded the recording to Marquez. He responded within minutes. "Elliot, you need sleep. Consider seeing someone." He was right about one thing. I was losing the boundary between waking and dream. Yet the data drove me forward. I extracted spectral fingerprints of the male voice from the porch conversation and compared them to Mark's voicemail greeting. 93% match. I confronted him in his office. Papers scattered when I slammed a USB stick on his desk. "Press play." He folded arms. "You're upset. I get it." The house had prepped me with timestamps and decibel levels. I felt like I had legal exhibits drafted by spirits. I opened my laptop, cued the porch file. Allison's voice, "Pick me up at the bridge." "Mark's, you owe me." Mark's face drained. He asked to talk somewhere private. We ended up in the parking lot under sodium vapor lights. He admitted Allison had texted him for a ride, saying she needed to leave school discreetly. She'd sounded panicked, cryptic about a boy stalking her. Mark picked her up at 2:45, drove to the bridge because she said she wanted fresh air. They argued about calling the police. At 3:59, she bolted from the car, started running south along the shoulder. He tried to intercept, lost sight of her. "So you left her there," I said, voice breaking. "I circled back. She was gone. I thought she called someone else. You never told me. I didn't want to drag you into more hurt, and I panicked. Panic, the universal solvent. I threatened to go public. He begged for a day to contact a lawyer. I agreed, though fury tasted like battery acid. On my drive home, I screamed until my throat tore. When I arrived, every bulb in the house shone funeral white. The hub displayed a countdown, 10:09:59, 9:58. I assumed a glitch and unplugged it. The timer continued on walls, mirrors, even my phone lock screen. Synchronized digital handwriting. At 0, the system plunged the house into darkness. A single file appeared on my laptop, Final Day MP4. I clicked. Multi-angle footage assembled by collating doorbell, street cameras, and phone GPS painted the clearest narrative I'd ever seen. 2:42 p.m. Allison exits side gate, rushes into Mark's car. 3:12. Car parks on Old Cedar Bridge. 3:18. Allison stands on railing, phone at ear. 3:30. A white van arrives. A tall man approaches, gesturing angrily. 3:44. Mark moves between them. Allison slips past, sprinting toward town. 4:01. Van follows at low speed. 4:13. Alley cam shows Allison hiding behind dumpsters, dialing phone. 4:17. She texts me, but I'm in a meeting. I never felt the vibration. 4:22. Van blocks alley. Allison escapes through back door of corner deli. 4:25. Street cam tracks her onto 5th. The van accelerates. 4:26. Impact. Van flees. License plate visible, 6RC921. The official report said no cameras had captured the hit. Yet here it was. Angles stitched by an impossible curator. My home. I froze the frame on the driver's face. It wasn't Mark, nor a stranger. It was Mason Bryant, my daughter's ex-boyfriend, a 19-year-old with anger issues, whom I'd once warned to stay away. I collapsed, tears smearing the screen. The house whispered, "Save her." But Allison was already gone. The only salvation available was justice. I copied the video to 3 flash drives and 1 cloud vault. Then I called Marquez, this time confident enough to defy his skepticism. He agreed to meet after I emailed a still image of Mason behind the wheel. The house quieted, lights dimming to a humane amber. I thanked it, yes, audibly. Then showered, scrubbing 6 months of self-neglect off my skin. As water hit tile, a memory surfaced. Allison and me laughing while she practiced parallel parking in an empty lot, windows down, her mixtape rattling the speakers. I clutched the faucet to stay upright. At precinct headquarters, I surrendered the footage. Detectives reviewed it frame by frame, expressionless until the license plate appeared. Marquez looked at me as if seeing a survivor crawl from rubble. "Where did you get this?" "My house," I said. I expected ridicule. Instead, he nodded, weary. "Technology's wild," he muttered, and dispatched units to arrest Mason. Returning home, I found the hub dark. No lights, no lavender phantom. I rebooted breakers. Nothing revived. The network had performed its last obligation and fallen silent, like a witness granted eternal rest after testimony. Days passed. Sarah came over when she heard an arrest had been made. We sat in the kitchen where invisible plates had once clinked. She thanked me. voice tremoring with pride and sorrow, fused. We didn't discuss reconciliation. Some fractures stay. Yet we shared coffee without needing anesthetic small talk. Weeks later, Marquez called to confirm Mason had confessed. An altercation on the bridge, jealousy, reckless judgment. He hadn't meant to kill her, only scare her. When she darted into the street, he panicked. The solvent again. The district attorney built the case on forensic video provenance. When asked in deposition how I sourced the footage, I repeated, smart home data aggregation. Legally true, spiritually incomplete. I considered reinstalling the system, but the thought felt obscene, like asking the dead to perform once more. Instead, I stripped the house to switches and analog locks. At night, I open windows and let the wind graze unmediated across the rooms. Sometimes I still catch lavender, but it no longer ambushes. It greets. One evening in early spring, I discovered a single unpaired sensor under Allison's bed. The small puck that had first detected her footsteps humming down the hallway. Battery dead, activity log erased. Yet when I held it, warmth pulsed, faint but unmistakable. I placed it in my palm, whispered, "Thank you." I didn't expect a reply. None came, and that was all right. Stories can end without echo. Some voices deserve their rest.